Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Visitors 2022. So, this, of course, is Season 1, Episodes 1 through 3. So, for this show, when I was watching it, I immediately had vibes of like Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz. So it's a very comedic kind of show. It's like dry humor, and I thought that it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. When going into this show, we have a lot of episodes that I feel are to try to cliffhanger you to get you interested in the next episode, because they kind of do this kind of slow build of things that are to give you answers and of what's going on. Um, I also could probably compare this show to the horror movie Critters. Also, for those of you that are to have gone on and seen that horror movies of those at some point. So, with that said, what is this show about? It's conveniently available on HBO Max. What is the grading for this show? I like it. I think it's definitely interesting enough for anyone in the brother to go on and check the show out. I I got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and yeah, I would definitely say go out of your way to see this show, especially if you like movies like Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz. Ding. Easy way to say that you'll be interested upon this show. So, but now, what is it about? Visitors. Within these 3 episodes, we have a guy named Richard who is changing careers from a video game store owner to a police officer to follow in his father's footsteps. Richard then is to go on and consistently be hassled by a number of these other officers throughout his days, as well as Richard going on and finding some unusual things and bringing them into the office for everyone to go on and simply say, it's like, well, hey, like, we don't care about this, so how about you go on and send this to this scientist that we just have lying around that helps at some points in time. And when Richard is to go on and meet with this scientist, Kawinka Dinkley, Richard is to have some history with this woman. And the more and more that Richard is to meet up with Jacqueline, this scientist, it seems that at some point, the scientist is to consistently go on and either wear these much more revealing clothes or seem to somehow try to look good for Richard. And then Richard, within these episodes, is to come to these conclusions of Richard now having to tell Jacqueline, I'm married, right? Jacqueline's like, well, hey, I just so happen to go on and be wearing this anyways. Like, I have a life. I have other things to do. So, but immediately when you're looking at Jacqueline, you're like, God dang, woman. Wow. Just really just some eyes are wandering, and I do not want them to. So Richard goes on to eventually stumble upon, in his first episode, a alien ship that is to crash land, because he is to consistently go on and follow this hooded individual that is to be throughout these episodes. Richard then goes on and is to stumble upon this alien craft, and Richard is to try to alert other officers about this, and coincidentally, we will find out in other episodes how this possibly goes horribly awry. Richard is to also stumble upon, in the first episode, 2 FBI agents. And so it seems that Richard is to go on and be able to have these FBI agents much more so believe Richard rather than his own people that he's working with and or under. So we, of course, through this show, I'm hopefully going to remember hopefully most of these names for these characters, but I am more than likely also not going to know who everyone is, simply because the way that the cast here is to have been put together. So at some points, I'm probably going to go on and not exactly know everybody, so I'll kind of make up things as we go, or figure out a way to go on and try to figure out who everyone is at some points in time throughout the show, because it's still fairly early, even though I went through 3 episodes. Probably by the time that I get to know everybody and know who their all names are, the show would probably end. Because really, like, these episodes are fairly short. So, with that said, let's go on into this show. It's about that double 5-time territory. Let's just go into more spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time you spoil this episode. Or these episodes, because there's 3 of them. So, in the beginning of this first episode, we have Richard, who was at some point to have worked in this good game shop, but then is to decide to take up his father's mantle and become a police officer. And so Richard is getting up in the morning, and all of a sudden there is to be on the news this reporter who is talking to a guy named John Collins, who is to be this farmer who was to spot this UFO sighting. The only problem is when the reporter goes there, there seems to be nothing really there. And so they also try to disgrace John Collins consistently by calling him a drunk or calling him any number of names and stuff of that manner. So we have at one point where the news reporter throws it back to the anchorman, and then all of a sudden we have the anchorman that is to hear through his mic uh, the reporter kind of saying something, and the anchorman is to throw it back to the news reporter, and all of a sudden the news reporter is saying like, "Oh, I was just drinking some water." So the anchorman is like, "Well, okay, all right." So we have this supposed UFO sighting, and so everybody is kind of questioning what is to have gone on within this farm, and the police are to tell certain people to not say anything. So now we transition to have Richard go to work after he talks to his wife, and we have Mitch, who is to go on and be at this good game shop, where Mitch is seeing 2 guys go on and play this display of a game called Zombie Crash. And Mitch, with his other coworker, is to all of a sudden realize that Richard is not at work. And so all of a sudden Mitch goes on and sees a guy named Brett and is calling Brett and saying like, "Well, hey, where is Richard?" And Brett is like 5 feet away from Mitch. And Mitch is to answer this phone call, or Brett is to answer this phone call from Mitch. And Mitch is to realize that, oh, Brett is right there. But then Brett is to still say like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mitch, like I had this important phone call." And so the phone call is coming from Mitch, and Mitch is just ticked at Brett. Brett is to be ignoring Mitch because he still has this phone call that went dead, and Brett is continuing to pretend that this phone call still exists, and Brett drives off. So Mitch is to realize that the 2 customers within the store decided to walk away from this game, from buying it, and Mitch is now upset just because, like, well, hey guys, like, you went on for a good length of time and started to play this game, like, why didn't you just buy it? Because it seems like you guys have some limited edition shirts that you want to go on and like purchase this game. And they're just like, yeah, no, I'm not really interested. So we've covered technically that part. So we now have uh, we now have Richard, who goes into the office and is uh, getting kind of the tour via guy, an officer named Roger. So Roger is to show Richard his office, which is basically this very small, tiny room that has this filing cabinet and this desk. And basically, I don't even know how Richard can even go on and sit in this office because of how small it is. So, as well as Richard is also seeing this portrait of his father and going on and grabbing this badge of his father and just kind of touching on to it. Because that, I guess, is his special thing that he touches on to, just kind of get the confidence to go on and keep going. So, Richard has nothing to do within his office, so he just starts to uh, put bullets in his gun, starts to go on and just start, like, doing kind of practice, kind of aiming his gun, and all of a sudden Roger opens this door and is to be frightened by Richard kind of holding his hands up, and Richard's like, oh no, like, I didn't mean to do that. So Roger is going on and telling Richard that the sheriff, Sheriff Kovac, is to want him near a certain location. So Richard then goes on to this location, and we have both Sheriff Kovac and Officer Sharon, who, when they go on and they see Richard, are to throw their guns out and have Richard spread them, and he ends up getting patted down. Richard is to go on and tell these two officers, like, why are you patting me down? I have my uniform on. And the sheriff's like, you can never be too safe. Sure, you can never be too cautious. So Richard is to go on and ask the sheriff, well, hey, like, what do you need me to do? And so the sheriff tells Richard to man the cones. So, and is to also tell Richard, if anybody asks him about the farm, say nothing. So Richard is all of a sudden manning these cones, and while he's doing that, he all of a sudden notices something stick out that's fairly unusual. Richard starts chasing after this person in this gray hoodie. Richard then follows this person into the woods to find this seemingly unusual cocoon that has slime upon it, and it just looks so oddly where it is to be. Richard then takes it and brings it into the office, and everyone's going on and saying, like, why bring that into the office? And Richard is to say it's because it looked unusual, and he followed some unusual suspect and found this cocoon thing. So we of course have I believe the sheriff that pulls Richard aside and is to go on and try to mentor Richard, and is to also mention to Richard that Roger had gotten traumatized by Richard whipping out his gun. And Richard goes on and looks at Roger to notice that this guy is to be messing with his food to the point of his food is all over his face and doesn't look like he is traumatized whatsoever. And Richard's like, okay. So Richard is to be told by Roger that there is possibly a scientist who from time to time is to help the police department out. So they can just go on and just find this random scientist that like I guess there's nothing that they can explain. Just grab this random scientist and just kind of use her to help you out. So Roger gives Richard this address and says that this is a person named Jack. So Richard follows this address and is to meet up with what he would assume some guy named Jack. And all of a sudden, when Richard opens the door, all of a sudden we have a woman named Jacqueline who is to man be wearing some clothes, I tell you that. Every time you see Jacqueline, I'm like, man, she is just wearing like tighter and tighter clothes, or just going on and wearing these like really nice dresses. And every single time you see her, Richard is just like, wow, okay. And so Richard and Jacqueline are to mention that they had a previous relationship together, and that Jack is to be short for Jacqueline. And so Richard is like, well, hey, like it seemed like you moved, and like it also seemed like I didn't know that this was really you. And Jacqueline is to mention, yeah, I moved because things happen, like problems happen, this and that. So Richard is to hand over this unusual cocoon, and Jacqueline is to look into it. Come to find out, Jacqueline calls Richard and is to ask Richard where he found this thing. And Richard is to just say, well, in the woods somewhere. So Jacqueline goes on and to cut into it, and it seems that there is to somehow just be this dead squirrel within this cocoon, and that was all that was really inside. And come to find out, Jacqueline later will go on and have this cocoon be taken from her place, and there is to be obviously some green slime footprints that are to tell you where these people are to have gone. So, but let's kind of pull back here. So Richard, of course, is to go on and do these fairly odd jobs for the police station, and so he goes back there, and he ends up having to man the phones, going and seeing if there's any messages during the time that someone else had kind of taken this job over. Come to find out, there were a number of different messages that were nothing that Richard could really do or deal with, but he writes them down anyways. We also have in this message somebody who I guess accidentally recorded this, and come to find out, we have these two officers that are going to play a prank on Richard because they don't like him. Because I guess, like, since this guy is to go in here and think that he's gonna be top cop, because of course his father was to have been a police officer before, and the sheriff is to go on and see that kind of same similar thing of, like, Richard, it's like, well, yeah, I get it that you're trying to be like the top cop here, but like maybe you should kind of ease into something. So Richard, again, going on listening to all the messages, is to all of a sudden hear this exchange between Roger and Sharon on this messaging thing, stating that they're going to go on and pull a prank on Richard by putting urine in his coffee. And Richard is to hear this and spit the coffee out, and the people are just like, duh, 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 duh. So they're really hard on Richard today, but then tomorrow we'll have Sharon, who will oddly be nice to Richard and weirdly kiss Richard upon his cheek and then walk away. Because Sharon is to have said, well, yeah, like I was hard on you yesterday, but today I'll be nice, and tomorrow, who knows? So, but we'll get to that. So Richard is to start taking these messages, and is to all of a sudden look up to realize that there is two FBI agents that are to obviously be fairly similar to Scully and Mulder from X-Files. More than likely might even have the same names, not quite sure, couldn't find that within this thing here, but eventually I'll probably go on at some point and realize what their names actually are. So, with that said, Richard is to talk to these FBI agents, and we have Richard, who ends up getting scared by these FBI agents. Like, oh, do you get scared by law enforcement? Richard's like, no, like I just didn't think you would be there. It's kind of late at night, and so the FBI agents are like, well, hey, like we just got in, and so like we're FBI agents, and so we're gonna go on and work with you guys to solve this whole new case about the farm and everything like that. Try to investigate what all happened. So Richard then goes on to, after his day eventually is done, after he's kind of told to just kind of go home, Richard instead is to go off to this bar where we have a guy named Ty who is talking to Richard. And I guess now, since Richard is to be this police officer, Richard thinks that he is to be somehow better than Ty. And so Ty goes on and is to kind of crush Richard's head onto this this kind of bar. And Ty is asking Richard, it's like, well, hey, like, do you think you're better than me now? And Richard's like, of course not. Because I guess they used to be old high school buddies. So Richard all of a sudden is to bump into his old co-workers at the Good Game shop, and so both of the Good Game guys are to be asking him questions simultaneously about, like, well, hey, why did Richard leave, and also what's going on with that farm. And so all of a sudden Richard is to see this hooded individual yet again, and so Richard again starts to follow him. So Richard is to follow this guy along with the Good Game shop co-workers. And so Richard ends up stumbling upon a bunch of people within these woods who are trying to sell these bootleg copies of Zombie Crash and all of the merchandise that they were to try to sell along with it. So Richard goes on and arrests all these people trying to rip off this this Zombie Crash, and so, and try to like book them or try to just get them out of the woods. So Richard is to go on and immediately think that there isn't going to be a possibility he's going to go on and find a very unusual, unidentified thing here. But then all of a sudden, once Richard is to stumble further into this woods, he does go on and find a UFO crash landed into this woods. And so immediately when he picks up the walkie to radio to his officers, that's technically when the first episode ends. More than likely, there's a number of things that probably happened in this first episode, but that's like the bulk of it. So, within episode 2, Richard is to go on and walkie to his detectives that there is a UFO sighted in this woods. And so the sheriff and everybody is to go on all simultaneously at the one time, not really believing Richard is telling the truth. And so when they go on to make their way to this UFO landing, we have this reporter who is to also follow the police because evidently they had gotten some tip mentioning that there was going to be some sighting there. So when the reporter and when these officers were to make their way to where this UFO is, all of a sudden, oddly, this ship is gone. And now the reporter is very upset with Richard of like, really? Like, there couldn't be anything here? Like, there's no, like we had Bubkiss nothing? So this is kind of like the Hoffa vault all over again. So come to find out, it seems with some of the supposed crash landing sites, the news is to cover that there was to be this metal piece that was to have been left. And so all of a sudden the reporters are trying to put together what this actual piece could have looked like onto an alien ship. And this is just a tiny sliver of a piece. And so all of a sudden they just attach this to some random alien spacecraft and says like, yeah, this looks pretty accurate, right? So we have within these episodes, Richard is to again get talked to by the sheriff because, of course, he is to be technically the boy who cried wolf here, and they're never going to believe him ever again. And so we have Sharon going on and trying to sympathize with Richard, and that's when she ends up kissing him on the cheek. So Richard is to get a call from Jacqueline that this cocoon was stolen, and there, of course, was to be these slimy green footprints that followed. And Richard is to ask Jacqueline what was inside the cocoon, and she just said it was some dead squirrel. So come to find out, Richard within these episodes are to find out what really that alien actually was. So Richard is to also notice that there is to be some green slime residue of footprints within his office, and come to find out this is coming from the FBI agents. So Richard, when no one was to go on and believe him, he is to go on into the bathroom, and we have these FBI agents follow him, and the male officer is to go on and use this is to use this urinal. There we go. And so we have the female going and mentioning to Richard that like she believes him, and like they're gonna go on and uncover the whole truth. And so while this female officer is going, or while this FBI officer is talking to Richard, we have the male FBI officer who is going on and peeing very loudly, to the point of every single time that this FBI agent is talking to Richard, Richard's going on and says, What did you just say? And the guy just continues to pee, to where the female officer, or the female FBI agent, turns to the other officer in the urinal and tells him, it's like, well, hey, can you be a little bit more quieter? As the now FBI agent in the urinal is to try to like slowly but surely just kind of piddle some out, and then he starts peeing again. So Richard is to realize that these FBI agents are to supposedly want to work with him, and it seems that they're the only ones who believe him. So Richard is to try to go on and figure things out. So when he then goes on and tries to figure things out, we have one of his old friends from Good Game Shop who comes to Richard's work and wants to go on and give him food. And then Richard notices that both the drink and the food is both empty. And the guy goes on and tells Richard, it's like, well, hey, like, I've been waiting here for an hour and 20 minutes, and I could not go on and wait long enough to give you this food. So, we also, so we have the two of them that are to go back to this site as Richard is to go on and get these tacos and make his way back to this site, trying to figure out things. And Richard is to take far too long for his lunch and ends up having to be called back. So, within these episodes, we start to see things starting to go missing. We have Sharon, who all of a sudden notices that this copier is all of a sudden missing because we have this green goop that comes out of the sink and is to start to crawl its way to this copier and all of a sudden makes it disappear. We also have Jacqueline that is to go on and make her way to this taco stand and is to meet up with Nancy. So, Nancy, with meeting Richard when he comes home late at night, it seems that Nancy is to consistently be going on and sending certain pictures of her chest to this other guy to make him happy, so to speak. So Nancy all of a sudden is talking to Richard and talking about his day, and Richard can't really say anything because what he is possibly working on may either be classified or Richard can't go on and really tell Nancy what he's doing anyways. So Nancy is to all of a sudden stumble upon Richard's phone and realize that Richard had gotten a text from Jacqueline, and not quite sure exactly what that said because it was in French, a French language. So anybody who is to have a Google Translator or know French, let me know what the message was because I didn't go and translate that or anything like that. I was just like, okay, this is just a text. Luckily, they said that somewhere in the show, or otherwise I wouldn't have known. And I'm saying this for a reason, because Nancy is to go on and call Brett and finally give in to Brett and what he wants. And so within episode 3, we're going to find out Nancy is going to try to have an affair with Brett, but it's going on to be a kind of weird kind of approach to an affair upon the show, but we'll get to it. So, but in episode 2, so we have Nancy confronting Jacqueline at this taco stand, and we have Jacqueline talking to Nancy, and Nancy's like, well, hey, why did you call my husband? And Jacqueline is to try to come up with all these excuses to not tell Nancy the complete truth, and Jacqueline is to also confirm to Nancy that like they're not trying to get back together or that they're not trying to do anything. So when Jacqueline all of a sudden is to go to this taco stand, bizarrely this taco stand is all of a sudden missing, as well as the news report is to showcase John Collins, who's giving the finger, and they're still covering this guy and bashing him consistently. So we have Richard, who is driving, and all of a sudden, while he is to accidentally back up, he smacks into something that he finds very unusual. And so, come to find out, this is this person with this very alien looking helmet and very alien looking outfit. And so, Richard grabs this person or alien and is to toss this thing into his vehicle, and they're kind of freaking out or very unsure what exactly this thing really is. So Richard goes on and just dumps this thing off at the Good Game shop because nobody goes in there, I guess, anyways. So Richard is to dump this alien body onto this couch, and all of a sudden we have these customers from the previous episode who comes back and regret the fact that they didn't go on and buy this game, and were to have apologized of what they did yesterday to try to take advantage of going on and playing this game for free within this store. So we have the Good Game Shop guys trying to get rid of these customers. We have Richard trying to get rid of these customers, and all of a sudden we have this helmet that is starting to make these noises, these unusual noises. So all of a sudden the helmet of this alien is to come off, and so the customers are to finally leave, and come to find out there is to be an alien underneath this, but it looks very human. Because, of course, this alien is to have just these black eyes and is to have this black blood coming out of her mouth because, of course, she was hit by a car. So, Richard is to go on and take this. Take this alien into this back room, and it seems that Mitch is to be very hazmated and quarantined, and is to have this kind of big like suit on him, and Mitch, I guess, is to go on and plan for everything, to him even having this whole huge thing where a scientist can go on and have all these items that she could ever need, because Mitch is to plan for the world ending. But so we'll get to that. So Richard is telling these guys that he's going to leave this girl here and he'll come back for her. So when he does come back, he then brings Jacqueline here, and now Jacqueline is wearing this really nice dress, and Richard is confirming to Jacqueline, like, I'm married, right? And Jacqueline goes on and she's like, well, hey, I was going off with drinks with some old friends of mine. Like, this is just a coincidence. And Richard is just like, okay. So Jacqueline goes into this back room where then she tries to look into this alien, and when Jacqueline is to tell Richard, of course, about this alien, she mentions is like, well, like, it seems like this alien was in a car accident. Do you guys know anything about that? And Richard's just like, yeah, I don't know. I can't disclose any of that. So Jacqueline is just like, okay. So we also have a man that Richard finds that was to have this unusual story about his dog that got taken. And Richard eventually is to go back to this guy and say, like, and it's to ask him, like, hey, your dog got taken unusually. But the guy never goes on and actually tells what the story is, even when he tries to beg people, hey, like, shouldn't I, like, go on and say now, like, this whole dog story, because it's really just a part of my project. And so the guys are just like, no. So Richard wants to take this alien who he finds out is Fred, and is to take her to the police station. But when Richard is to find that he doesn't feel that the police station is safe because of these FBI agents, Richard just dumps off Fred into this woods with this guy and says that she'll be safe with him there. So it seems at some point the FBI agents are to have these two guys come in who are these two store customers. So the FBI agents are to have found out that these guys had uncovered this alien woman, and both the FBI agents are combing through this tape camera, and so they find out that not only these guys were to find this woman, but then also so did Richard. And so the FBI agents are like, okay, Richard's holding back on us. This was like the day before. So the FBI agents are telling these customers that they're going to be like deputized to work with them. So, because numbers game. So we're also kind of getting to the last bit of parts upon these 3 episodes. So Richard, while working, is to all of a sudden end up getting this video where it seems Nancy had gone on and is to try to videotape this affair with Brett and live stream it upon Richard's phone. So like it's going live, but like not on like YouTube live, but like so like Richard is kind of seeing this going on upon his phone. So Richard is to also realize there seems to be some alien tentacle that he is to also see in the background. So Richard then rushes home wanting to shoot down this small alien that is kind of crawling around like a spider. So all of a sudden Richard is to burst into this house, and we see Brett, who is jerking it to basically Nancy's cleavage in a way, because she is wearing a robe where she's technically revealing her cleavage to Brett, and Brett is going on and looking at Nancy and giving himself a low hand 5. So yeah. So Richard then is to go on and start firing his gun into this house, trying to kill this small alien that looks like, again, like kind of this spiderish looking thing that doesn't really have a name. Unless there is a name, then good luck finding it. So we have both Brett and we have both Nancy that is thinking that Richard has lost it, and because of this affair he is to have gone crazed. And so both Brett and Nancy are ducking for cover, trying to go on and have Brett go into this other room to hear screams or anything like that. And so Brett is asking the people in the other room, like, is anybody dead? I don't know. I can't tell. You have to tell me. Like, is somebody dead? So Richard continues to try to get to this alien and is to try to figure out where it is in the room. And so Nancy, who is fearing for her life, is to all of a sudden get this kitchen knife, and she is to try to lob this at her husband. And all of a sudden, the alien ends up saving Richard's life by the alien jumping almost to get Richard, and Nancy stabs into this alien at the perfect time, and now this alien is somehow dead. And so we have to probably come to some conclusion that regardless of this alien really being there, we're also just going to have Richard being accused of like being crazed and going after his wife anyways, I'm sure. So now we have Richard with Fred, and Fred basically has to try to pull off an ET phone home scenario. And so Richard is with Fred, and so Fred is going on and explaining that they need to send a signal off to their planet, or to Fred's planet, so she can get some reinforcements to help her fight off this alien menace. The bad side of aliens, I guess, within their world, oddly. So, because Fred is going to be ridiculously outnumbered, even though you can easily shoot these aliens and kill them off. But it also seems that some of these aliens are starting to go on and possess people and take them over. So Richard goes on to hear out how Fred exactly is going to send this message to her planet, because she mentions that it's very difficult for them to be able to do that because it's some kind of quantum entanglement. And so Mitch all of a sudden is talking to Fred, and he's like, oh my god, I know exactly what she means. Luckily, right? So Mitch all of a sudden is breaking this down as if he's Jeff Goldblum from Independence Day. And Mitch is going on and is having this whiteboard and is explaining that Mitch needs to go on and find some satellite that can send a signal close to Fred's planet and have that signal go on and try to lure people from Fred's planet over to Earth to go on and hope that Fred is going to get reinforcements by this bizarrish way to have this planet know something bad is going on. So we have Richard, Fred, Mitch, and the other guy from the Good Game Shop, who are all making their way to the God, what is it called? The news, the building where they shoot the news, and because this news place is to go on and have this massive satellite. So we have these guys all go into this news broadcast building, and while Mitch is trying to go on and try to put this signal up, we also have the anchorman from this news who is speaking with John Collins, and it seems that John Collins is to now be slightly different. It seems that he is to go on and sound slightly different than he might have before. And so the anchorman is to ask John Collins, like, well, hey, like, kind of like, what are you here for? And the alien is to, or John Collins is going to say, to survive. So all of a sudden, while they're going on live to do this report, all of a sudden the whole entire building loses power, and Mitch was going on and trying to send this signal, and it was getting like very close to being 100% done, and no one else is with Mitch at this time. We all of a sudden notice that there is a number of these spider aliens that are making their way into Mitch's room, starting to surround him. And all of a sudden, when they do get the power back on, Mitch is to realize that this signal is now 100% complete. And when Mitch kind of turns around in this room, he is starting to realize that he is to be swarmed by these spiders that are almost going to attack upon him. And so Mitch is getting ready to possibly either get killed or be taken over by these aliens. So that's kind of like the cliffhanger for episode 3. And we, of course, have like certain end credit scenes that also are to be shown within these episodes. And so we watch on for this end credit scene of Mitch's co-working friend who is looking at this laptop with all this slime on it, realizing that Mitch is to now be one of them instead of one of humans. So, with that said, I think that covers in a very roundabout way what technically happens for this show, but I kind of rushed through it. More than likely, once we got past the first episode, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to kind of mention things and talk about stuff and try to cover this the best way I could because there's a lot to dissect here. So, with that said, let me know how you felt about The Visitors. Let me know how you felt about eventually wanting to go on and watch more of the show because you're like, yeah, like it really looks interesting. And hopefully I'll go on and also cover more of this because it looks really cool. I really liked it. And so maybe that will tell me to go on and watch more of it. So that's it. I'm going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy. We also had the moment where within these episodes, Richard was to meet up with his grandfather at this retirement home. And so Richard was to, of course, see how his grandfather was doing and talk about Richard's dad at some point. And we also had, within these episodes, Freddy, who is to go on and be at Richard's place for a moment, try and eat food of which that she tries to eat it and then puts it back out. Fred all of a sudden oddly needs to be held by Richard, and so it seems that Fred is to want to continue to hold on to Richard, and Richard, of course, is trying to figure out some way to stop Fred from continuing to hug onto him because Richard needs to do other things and try to figure things out. So Richard then goes on and is to try to give Fred something to latch onto that she can feel that same kind of hugging embrace by maybe a certain kind of item. And so Fred is to be given at first Richard's badge that of course was given to him by, or was to have been Richard's father's badge. And so Richard uses that as a special memento and gives this to Fred to just kind of hold on to temporarily. But Richard is to want that badge back, and so he goes on and instead gives Fred this lucky fish, and Fred's telling Richard, "You're just making this up. This isn't Lucky Fish," and he's like, "No, it really is." So, uh, like it's not a real fish. It's just a certain random item that Richard actually gave her. So we have Fred holding on to that, and she is to seem to be comforted by this item. And I was like, okay, this is such an odd film or such an odd show. We also have Richard, who is to always be frisked by the sheriff. Even when Richard is to uh, again be seen by the sheriff after they go on and they find out about all these bootleg zombie crash merchandise that is being sold. Sheriff is to start to go on and frisk Richard, and Sheriff is like, "Oh, like I'm sorry, Richard, I forgot what your face looked like." So, like every single time, we're just gonna have this sheriff who just continues to frisk anybody and everybody. And when is that going to be the big joke of this show? Um, but so with that said, I hope then that is to go on. And I know like these were just kind of random scenes that I just kind of plopped in here to kind of finish this up. But at least I want to kind of cover all or most of my bases for the most point, so that way I can go on and get out of here and go on to the other things. So goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.